A listener asked us a question about homeschooling. We're going to give you our thoughts on that. So let's do that.
The Christian Principles Podcast is brought to you in partnership with the Herzog Foundation. But bear in mind, the views and opinions expressed here are those of the hosts and not necessarily of the Herzog Foundation.
Welcome to the Christian Principles Podcast. I'm Matt George.
And I'm Mark Zockoll. So Matt is on a different mic than usual. He's got his Red Devil headset on. Did you get that when you were like
OG
10 or something? How old is that? Like,
I don't even think I bought these. I think this is one of those things that, hey, these were donated to the church. You want a pair? Like,
I bet you confiscated them and forgot to give them back. Like,
these are not confiscated. I can definitely say that.
I would have returned them so fast. We want you to know, just like when a student comes to your desk with proper decorum, just like when a parent comes and says, I know we're on the same page. We are critically aligned. So I believe in what you're doing, and I want to be a part of what it is that you are perpetuating here at this school. I want to be part of the solution. Just like when we have a conversation with a teacher and teacher says, listen, I know I got things to work on. You got things to work on. I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to be there and to listen. Just like all that is the case, today we want you to know when a listener comes and asks us to have comment on a particular topic, we're going to bump that up to the top of the list. As fast as we can. There are some things we have on the list. We have a Fermium podcast coming up, our 100th episode. Like, that one's not going to get bumped. We have to make sure our Principal Timeline series stays in. But otherwise, if we can bump it, we're going to try to bump it up to the top. So tonight, we were asked by a particular individual, which I won't say the name. The person will know who it is because if for whatever reason, maybe one of the things that was asked about, this person wouldn't want to be related back to for whatever reason, even though we're all brothers and sisters here.
Yeah.
But he asked about homeschooling. So the question was about homeschooling, and it was somewhat broad. Right? Somewhat, it's going to allow us to have a conversation about it, and I'm excited about that because there's a lot to say about homeschooling.
There's a lot to say about homeschooling.
A lot to say about it. Before we get there, though, let's go ahead and hear from the Herzog Foundation.
The Christian Principles Podcast is proud to partner with the Herzog Foundation in our mutual goal to see Christian school educators thrive. To further its mission to catalyze and accelerate the development of quality, Christ-centered K-12 education, the Herzog Foundation offers an array of programs such as online content, up-to-date news, training and events, grants, and hands-on organizational improvement initiatives. Leaders need to head over to the Herzog Institute to find amazing training opportunities for both administration and teachers. Herzog has also become a great hub of the latest news in education through their network of podcasts, including the one provided by yours truly. What a blessing the Herzog Foundation has been. Head over to herzogfoundation.com now so you too can be strengthened by this incredible organization. That's herzogfoundation.com. Just one more thing before we get back to the episode. If Herzog has been a blessing to you and your school, would you mind sending us a message telling us how? We'd love to share that with others.
All right, homeschooling in Christian schools. This is the question that we've been given. I'm just going to read it, and we're going to respond to it. So homeschooling, ... Allow them to participate in anything? Sports? Chapel? Choir? How about academic classes? Any other support for homeschool students? So lots of questions. I'm guessing because I don't have it. We don't have any other background as to why this is being asked of us, but I'm sure we are not the only ones to notice the homeschool explosion that has been since 2020. My school in Maryland here has been working with homeschoolers for quite a while. So before 2020. So I feel like we got a bit of a jump start on how to be interacting with. And I know many other schools out there have specific programs set up for working with homeschoolers. But I will say that even since 2020, the interest has changed slightly. That is going to require us to look at these kind of questions because what are you going to do as a school? So when homeschooling families come to you desiring, and that's what we're talking about kind of here, sticking to the question, not just how we are dealing with homeschoolers or recruiting them or whatever else. It's just we have homeschoolers that are planning to continue to be homeschooled, yet want to participate in some aspect of your ministry.
I have long said homeschoolers are slippery.
No.
And I repeat it to myself and I repeat it to others. Homeschoolers are slippery because they're just that. They're slippery. They if you would look at it at face value, a homeschooler is one who appreciates, and that's not a problem, but they appreciate their autonomy.
Yeah, right.
And maybe it's a demanded appreciation because nothing else is available. Maybe it's because they believe in themselves to be God ordained to be the sole provider of education for the student. Whatever it is, either way, there is an autonomy there that is not quickly given up. And when given, I say given up, not quickly departed from, offered over to somebody else for whatever reason. And so there are tremendous qualities. There are tremendous drawbacks. And I think we're going to title this one Homeschooler Participation Number 1, because I imagine someone's going to ask us about number 2, 3, and 4 coming down the line. But there's an overview, and I'll say that from the start. So if we want to go pros and cons, good cop, bad cop, we'll see what happens.
No, I think you have hit the nail on the head. Let me share this. Let me share this story because we had a homeschooler. We've had some really great success. Let me just say that with partnering with homeschoolers. What started out as strongly participating in our athletics program, that led into, we could take some classes. Wonderful. Let's take some classes. Let's fill the need to even, hey, could we become full-time students? But the one instance it had actually came after being a full-time student and saying, you know what? I really liked not having to wake up as early at home. I really liked not, being able to just get my schoolwork done and then do other things. So I'm going to back off a full-time, but I still want this one class. And just because I hadn't really gone through it, thought through it, and said, okay, that's fine, whatever. And then from the other students, I got, oh, you're so lucky. You just come in for the fun class. It's like, that's not okay. I'm not all right with that one. And so that I don't know if that's part of the fear or the concern, but that's definitely changed my thinking of quite a bit in how that student coming in for that one class can affect the overall environment.
Believe it or not, I today received this question, and I'm just now remembering it, but I received a question from one of my students today concerning a student in the school who has asked to have an individualized lesson plan, individualized education plan offered to this student, not because of any need, but because this student plans on being gone well past the number of understood absences in the school to participate in an extracurricular that is dominant in the student's life. And at this point, apparently the person speaking to me is speaking from a point of, my administration bosses have told me this is going to happen. Please facilitate this. So I'm doing my best to facilitate it. Please help me. You tell me, what are your thoughts on how I can best facilitate this one student being gone, basically having their own schedule and own creation of the school? And my first blush reaction is, Nope.
Nope.
That shouldn't be occurring because then what are you doing? I just think of all the other students and all the parents that I'm thinking are going to be, well, my kid can go work. Well, my kid, the extracurricular I want them to do is to come be a part of their family, the so on and so forth. That gets in my mind like, nope, I don't want anything to do with that. As an administrator, of course, I have to rein myself in and say, okay, what's the mission statement of the school, and then possibly the church. If you're a church school, for example, and the mission of the church is to support its constituency within its church, and the church has a homeschooler constituency, well, then perhaps a homeschool umbrella is something that has to be started. Perhaps the school, the Christian school attached to the church, maybe they will be asked to do something like what this student was asking of me to help the student facilitate as best as the student could. But there's a need to be very critical. And maybe this question's coming from someone who hasn't started this process yet. And
Right.
they're wondering,
that's kind of what it
should
sounds
I
like.
start this? Yeah. So maybe those of you who have a lot of experience with homeschoolers, I know Lori Koblentz oversees the homeschooling population at Frederick Christian Academy, and we're going to have her on to talk about this specifically at some point in the future. She's already said yes. So Lori, don't forget, you already told us you would come on and talk about this.
Coming after you, Lori.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, back and forth between us, if missionally, there could be a call from whoever the overseeing body is to work with homeschoolers to some extent. You that needs to be figured out. What does that look like? How far does that go? How far can they, I don't want to say not take advantage of it in a negative way, but how far can they take advantage of the opportunities involved at the school because of their church membership or because of their paying some smaller fee but not the whole tuition? Like, those things have to be clearly defined.
Yeah.
One of the things I pointed out to the person asking was, okay, let's just assume that the ship has sailed and this individualized plan of education will be occurring for this student, and let's say that it's the thought is they will miss they will miss, just for purposes of this extracurricular, 108 class hours in the school year. What happens if they miss 150 because there's an extra event thrown into the schedule of that particular extracurricular? Is that going to be okay? Is that going to be a solid, nope, we said 108, you've done 1010, we're done? Like, that stuff has to be thought of beforehand. So big picture, starting up high, missional, maybe come down a little bit, make sure it's written down. Yeah. Whatever you're doing with homeschoolers, make sure it's written down very clearly, and think through all the little intricacies. Because, again, going back to the autonomy of the homeschooling mindset and family, it's more likely, especially thinking conservatively as an administrator, thinking of the things that might fall apart. You're thinking of some population that is used to being the individual, is used to having their personal family schedule dominate. But again, that's a negative. But that's how the world runs. Because that's their world. So they're not going to simply stop thinking that way once they're a part of your institution. They very well may come and ask for individualized. Yeah. Well, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? Because that better fits my so on and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, just remind them the initials to our school are not B and K. So you cannot, I don't want to say anything that get us copyright, but you can't do that. But you know, that's, you're doing that. Don't do that.
I stopped.
Okay, thank you. We, in thinking through, you know, even when you write down, these are our guidelines. Here are what homeschoolers are allowed to participate in. Here's what they're not allowed to participate in. In order to participate, we also need X, Y, and Z. You know, you do need to think through. I mean, to some extent, you're never going to get through all the hypotheticals, but the comebacks of, okay, well, if you're going to ask me to do this, then how about that? And I know, like, we for a time said, well, in order to take any classes, you have to come for Bible. But since we're asking you to come for Bible, and you wouldn't have taken it otherwise. Like, we're going to discount that for you because it's an ask from us.
Mm-hmm.
So there's those kind of things. You don't. I mean, you very much can, and I guess I should clarify that. Just when you have it written down and you're basing everything off of your school's mission, don't be afraid to say, "This is our school."
Yeah.
And so we have every right to say, "Here's who can participate, who can't." I guess perhaps your enrollment policies are going to contribute into this a little bit as well, because is this homeschooling family like they in practice? You've got all those things to consider. I know even for us, like, they can come to class, but they have to be in dress code when they come to class, and maybe that's something that the school family wouldn't be comfortable with. So you've got to lay it all out there. Of, listen, this is still our school. You obviously have interest in participating with us, so we're going to assume you have somewhat. You're going to be okay with us demanding from you to abide by our standard of conduct, abide by our dress code, abide by X, Y, and Z, whatever else may be. But
or you would think so.
You would think,
like in my history, yeah, that's not always the case.
It's not always the case,
yeah.
But that's where you do have to go back and clarify and say, you know what, we're asking these things, and there may not be a lot of logical sense that goes into it. I mean, hopefully there is, but
as you see, might, yeah.
to them, there may not be a lot of logical sense. But at the end of the day, we don't have to offer that because it is our school, it is our program. I know one of the big things, I'll throw this out there too, that are concerns whenever you allow homeschoolers to participate in athletics, because I think this is just the biggest deal, is that homeschooler is potentially taking the place of a full-time student on maybe a starting roster or something like that. And this could be another episode in and of itself, and it probably should be. Coming from, even as I've had time to coach a team with this dynamic, as a coach, I want to be able to say, listen, once they're on the team, they're a part of the team, period. We're not delineating one way or the other. It's just that's the way a coach wants to think, right? But parents are paying tuition.
Mm-hmm.
Parents want to see their kids, have the opportunities and don't want to see it taken away from them. So even though, let's just say you have a church member that is a homeschooler, and so even more so, you're more inclined to say, well, they're a part of our ministry. They're a part of who we are. There's still that, but you're not fully committed while this other family is.
Yeah, and with their pocketbook, which is kind of the biggest deal, right?
That's the commitment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to the question, allow them to participate in anything, and then the question goes to sports. So I think we got to anything at the start. Well, that's down to your mission, and that's down to what you can. And there's going to be, hopefully within our population, you got the small college Christian schools that it's not even something they really consider other than allowing the local co-op to use their building for something. Yeah. But then you got the 50, 60, 30 just starting out Christian schools that they're using the Herzog Foundation Christian School in a Box or whatever it happens to be, and they're asking these questions, or maybe they just got to the point where they're having their athletic teams. They need a little boost for that baseball team or for their basketball team, even the 5, whatever it happens to be. Wherever they are in this realm, thinking through their participation in athletics, it's an easy case study. Use it as a case study, even if you are just setting it up now, or even if you're not setting up, fake like you are, and work that way.
Fake it till you make it.
Yeah, because then if you do it with sports has a way of clarifying. If you do it with athletics, the rest might come into clear contact. Here, chapel's listed, and I want to say, I have come to appreciate the not only the individuality of chapel, but the familyness which chapel brings to our Christian schools, and how it makes our Christian schools different, delightfully different, like Dolly Madison ice cream, as Reverend Orrin Purdue used to say. Like, chapel is not something that should be underappreciated, and it should be oversold in our schools. It should be this. We meet together. We talk about God in front of all the students. We worship together. This is a beautiful thing. And it shows, if an accreditation team could be there and sit through chapel, I think there's a lot that could be said about the school's mission as they see it through their chapel. Are students participating? Are they sleeping? What is the faculty staff doing? Are faculty staff looking for ways to be out? Are they looking for ways to be in? Are they engaging speakers? So that's a side note. But inclusion in chapel, that's something to even guard. If I'm bringing someone from the outside, they better be adding to that atmosphere and in no way taking away from it, because that's a huge deal for our school.
We've even had this conversation in our pastoral staff with church attendance, right? That people show up for the good stuff.
Yeah.
I kind of shuddered even just to say that, because it ought to be all good.
Yeah. Like when Matt speaks,
Yeah. That's really when people show up. No, that's when it's empty.
Cricket.
But when you are doing something right, people are going to want to participate in that. I will say, I don't think I've ever had a homeschool family just ask me straight up, like, hey, could we come to chapel? Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest, my gut reaction to that would probably be like, sure, why not?
Absolutely.
Because that doesn't affect literally anything. However, your point is awesome in that our kids get to be in our chapel because it is our family. And do you just want to invite a non-family member just to come in on your family devotions? Like, nah, I don't know. That does make me stop and think. Now, when it comes to sports, I've been there where we don't have a sports program unless we get additional help. We've had fine arts programs that we're okay without it, but you know what? They participate in other things. And, this comes to, I think the other thing to bring up, and it's why this needs to be a, multi-part series, but, when your church youth group has, so many, a blend of so many homeschoolers, and so they do feel like they're a part of the family already, it's, that's a difficult thing to travel, but that's where for fine arts and athletics, one of the big things that to help is what are the rules? If you're in a league, what rules does your league have? And sometimes that could just be your fallback of, well, this is what our league says, so take it or leave it, or this is what the rules are for our fine arts competition. So that can be helpful. Sometimes maybe they don't say anything about it whatsoever. So
especially if there is pressure coming from a church member that really wants to be a part of it, but wants to be a part of it their own way. Maybe that is a good secondary. Listen, I hear you, but we're not going to jeopardize our standing with this third party because that's your desire. Or you can come join us and just be a part of us. That's fine too. Come and do that. The other note here, how about academic classes? This you would think would be the first thing where we're talking about, but it's rarely. It's not. It's
no.
And leaning back on my my tenured time as a Christian school leader, that's not the first thing they come for. The homeschoolers which reach out to me do not come to my school first for my chemistry lab. They come to my school first for the extracurriculars, and it's only after that do I see them coming for other. And I'm saying, please, this is not every and always, because I've had many a family that shows up and then, we like that. Why don't we go ahead and we'll go ahead and put them in. That's great. So that happens too, but it's rarely ever coursework, which brings them to the school. It's usually something else. So if we are talking about coursework here, you've reached a little bit of a different level, and Matt brought it up earlier. What's going to happen with tuition? You're just going to straight cut it across 7, 8 hours, whatever you got. Are you going to make Bible, English, math, science, history worth more? Are you going to let extracurriculars be less? Are you going to lose seats in a high school extracurricular setting to a homeschooler because you can only have 10? But the paying, how are you going to work through that?
Yeah.
So you better have an
just
idea
gotta
on the
work through
front
it.
side. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, if you see academics be the first thing, I can almost guarantee it's going to be because of maybe you have an exquisite lab that they are aware of, like facilities plus a teacher, and they know they're not going to get, and they're interested in that field. I would also say that's probably the other aspect of it, of, they're wanting to be a chemist, and, just doing this at home isn't necessarily going to cut it. So that would be the only, I mean, granted, when I'm teaching history, like they're just knocking at the door, like, give me some of that G history. Come
I
on.
need some of that George history. Georgia
But,
history.
other than that, that's pretty much it.
We can understand that.
It's not the first. It's not the first thing, and even so, like, where the rubber meets the road is they will either
Hey,
come
Matt,
in and take.
Matt, could you tell us where the rubber meets the road right now, please?
It is they will either take one class and never see you again, or they will take one class and become a full-time student. I feel like that's where it is.
I do.
And we've seen that happen.
Yeah, I would affirm the same. There are absolutely those who will take a class, realize what is offered, and celebrate it, and then show up for more. I would say they're slippery in so much that I don't count on them for being there any past a year, because homeschoolers are slippery. But we'll leave that one there. The last part of this question, any other support for homeschool students? I can think of several off the top of my head. Matt, you can think of some more if you'd like to. But I've had homeschool students that want to be part of standardized testing, which usually you can make work as long as, again, they're not a distraction and it's well planned for, and you have the materials and you work with your supplier to know that they're going to be under the school but not counted within the school's testing categories and whatnot. We've already mentioned, of course, I'm going to leave mostly like the fine arts and athletics and things like that off the table, but I've also heard of field trips. We want to take field trips with the school. Yeah, come on in and be a part of field trips. One of the things,
which doesn't make a lot of sense, because that's like all homeschoolers do is field trips.
Stereotypically, right? Yeah. Another one that we offered at a time when I was trying to promote the homeschool, just to get our name out there with other people, was we will, one of the things that homeschoolers often find difficult is, or at least in my humble experience, the consistent documentation of even something like report cards or a transcript, or questions about what they should do with, well, how do I count these credits? What should I count? So offering support, simply just administrative office work sort of support with records, is something that was often asked for. Another one was, if I'm going to be teaching Algebra 1 this year, is there any way I could reach out to your Algebra 1 teacher and have a conversation with the Algebra 1 teacher as to how that teacher approaches? I shouldn't have picked Algebra 1 because I'm not going to think of a real awesome algebraic concept. Is PEMDAS one? Where you start with the parentheses and keep going.
Very basic, yeah.
So whatever, yeah. So how do you teach that versus how should I'm struggling because I can't think of a good way to teach that. So offering like teacher numbers as a resource. So if there is a homeschool umbrella and they're buying a part of that, what are they getting for being in the umbrella? What is the purpose? What is one of the shiny objects they're going to be receiving for giving us money to do with those sit downs? Are you sitting down with them and offering an actual review? And if so, does that follow any of the state standards? If your state does have some, just to again be clear, perhaps I'm sure other states are going to be different. They can just open the door and declare, I'm a homeschooler, and be done. Here in Maryland, they have to be under a state-approved umbrella. And so both of the schools that I was the head of school of, they were already approved on that list before I ever got there. And so being in that position of, yes, you can come to us as having to go to your county as the default, which, of course, the libertarian in a lot of us, the conservative in a lot of us, isn't going to want to push fellow church members, again, if you're church school or those who would come to you from like-minded church facilities around, they don't want to, or even just, this could be just more like a political mindset why they're joining your school, because they don't want to be having to answer to the state in that way. So know what the state does, know what you would have to do from that side, or at least what would be expected, what would be appropriate to expect of them and have in those conferences if you have to do an annual conference or something like that, annual review of a portfolio. But those would be other supports for homeschool students. I'd say I don't really have, in either of my institutions, I would say the ability for a homeschooler to come in and do much more than just maybe like a one-time evaluative testing. Consistent academic support would not be on the table, because that was often not even something my own students had enough time of. Right. I say my own. The full tuition paying students had enough of a time with that provider as I could get them to it. So I really wasn't comfortable adding an outsider to the list. Outsider, again, not using a pejorative, but just somebody outside the institution.
Right.
All right, that's enough.
Non-tuition paying.
Yeah. Not invested with the pocketbook. Anything else you can think of with another support for homeschool students, or anything just to maybe cap this off where we've gone half an hour?
I mean, I doubt this would ever come up, but even just like, can my kid come and socialize with your kids on campus? Like I lunchtime or something like that. I've never had that come up. It's just something else I thought about, that, what the homeschoolers need. They want to be with friends if they can. Well, so
now that you say that, I did. Now that you say that, I'm thinking through it. I had a second grader who wanted to make a part of what their consistent week's time was to come in to be with their friend, because they were with the school previously and they didn't leave, they didn't like burn bridges or anything, so they wanted to maintain that relationship, maintain certain relationships as best as they could, and so they did want to come and just be a part of a lunchtime. And it was something that was much more informal than I'm allowing this because you bought into our umbrella. It was more just, just come eat lunch with us. That was fine. All right. We should move on to our Christian Administrator Spotlight. And tonight's Christian Administrator Spotlight is going out to Mr. Tim Anger. Mr. Tim Anger. Up there. Absolutely. And Mr. Tim Anger, that's the thing.
Let's get angry when I...
Such a nice guy with a name like that.
Oh, I'm sure he hears that all the time.
All right. But Mr. Tim Anger of Emmaus Baptist Academy, where he is the principal. Matt, any other thoughts on Mr. Tim Anger?
Great man.
Great man, greatest man. He's just the greatest.
He's the greatest man. He does it better than everybody else. I don't even know why we do this podcast. Tim, you take over.
Come on, Tim, take over. It's been very interesting to get to know Mr. Anger, because Mr. Anger, first of all, some of you might already know Mr. Anger from his time spent on creating video helps for those who take PACES, the PACE system of schooling, and apparently his YouTube videos, like, he dwarfs his YouTube content.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he's the pro.
Yeah, so
we're not.
So Mr. Tim Anger, he's the principal there at Emmaus Baptist, and that is in Pennsylvania, actually, right, Matt?
Yeah. That's it is.
Over in let me find that. That's over in Emmaus, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's in Emmaus.
It's in Emmaus.
Yeah,
well, that makes sense. Everything. But Tim, it's been great to get to know you and to interact a lot by email. And you know what Tim does for us? He gives us feedback, and I wish some of the rest of you would too, because I know you have things you want to say. You want to hear us maybe say. Talk to us. Let us know it.
Or want us to stop saying.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, but I'm going to pray for you tonight, Tim. Let's pray. Father in heaven, we thank you so much for Tim. We thank you for his servant's heart now for such a long time there at Emmaus, in the leading of the school there that serves its people, serves the people of the church. May he be blessed today in his doings. Might he be strengthened in the work. And might he continue to be the encouragement to others as he's been to us. And what a blessing to be able to share that encouragement, even from so far away. We're thankful for this community and doing just that. We ask all this in the name of your Son, our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. All righty.
All right. Thanks for bearing with us with another episode.
Yep. Thanks for growing with us today.
Before you go, please be sure to hit that follow button on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also, on Spotify, be sure to tap the star icon near the top and select the number of stars you'd like to give us. We'd be so grateful for 5. On Apple Podcasts, scroll down to the ratings and review section and then tap write a review to share your thoughts of the podcast. Thank you.